Hey folks, editor Matt A.K. Stormageddon here with a quick and dirty intro before we get into the rest of the Romance Roundtable. Thank you for sticking with us as we spread this out over 2 episodes. It just seemed more manageable that way from the editing side as well as the listening side. So without further ado, the next section is with the incredible Sarah, who joined us for the Liam episode, who has now come back to talk about the Liam romance, and then we will move on from there through the rest of the roundtable. Buckle in, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a disabled freelance writer that discusses nerd things. And also love interest because I can't keep my lips from kissing everybody.
And who are you here to talk about?
I'm here to talk about Liam, my boy, the love of my life.
So Liam is one of the 2 straight people in your crew. Because we don't know anything about Drax's preferences.
That's true. That's true.
So we're going to say that he's one of the 2 straight people in your crew. What drew you to Liam?
So what drove me to Liam, I think, was what I was going through at the time. I had just started film school, and when he sends your first email, and included in the email is like a playlist of like films about like great adventures, I just kind of fell in love with it pretty much instantly because I was in a brand new place. I had just started like my actual bachelor's degree in something that I was very nervous but also excited about, and being like, oh look, here's a video game character that actually really loves the same things that I do, and he's like super sweet about it. And I think it's just the fact that he did it in like a friendly gesture first. I was just like, I like that. It's very nice. It's very sweet. And then also, I mean, he was just pretty handsome. That also, I can dig a man who gets shirtless after like the 4th dialogue. So,
Shirtless Fridays, making them a thing.
He is one of the more naked members of your crew, besides one other.
Was there anyone that you felt torn between when you were working on your romances?
Oh God, yeah, Javik. I felt so torn between Liam and Javik so bad.
Jal,
yeah, sorry.
Javik is a very different person.
I apologize.
All good.
It's okay.
It's been a long couple of days. Honestly, yeah, Jal. I don't know if it was just like he kind of gave me Garrus vibes the first time that I met Garrus. I was never really like, when I played the original Mass Effect, wasn't really into like the aliens or anything. But I met Jal and I was like, don't know if it's the voice. I don't know if it's just like this sort of like drawl to his like tone or something. I was like, damn, okay. And then, of course, both him and Liam get naked at the exact same time. And that's when I was like, oh, no. Now I'm, like, completely, like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to, like, what way to choose. But I was very indentured to Liam. I had to.
What was your favorite part of the Liam loyalty journey?
Oh, probably just, like, to me, it was how loyal he was to Ryder. Like, even though the whole idea of like, oh, it was meant to be your brother, he was still like really loyal to you, and he was so like, you can do this, I have faith in you, like you can like lead us, I think is what was my favorite part. Because it's like, obviously Ryder, some like a couple people don't like, it's like, oh, it was meant to be your brother, it wasn't meant to be you. But like he was like so behind you the whole step of the way, like that it just like it felt like it really hit my heart in a way that I don't think other romances have in that series, and I appreciated that.
Liam is a sweet boy. Did you have your one night stand with him?
I did.
Yeah.
yeah, I did. I cannot deny that. I cannot lie. I 100% did, and it was great. I mean, I will discuss why, like, because like everyone who plays Mass Effect, they go for the aliens and stuff. I just feel like when I met Liam the first time, he felt like the more like down to earth character that I had really met in the Mass Effect series, and I think that's why I like fell for him so fast as I did. Was he brought up Earth a lot, and he brought up like old Earth films, and I think that's what really made me fall for him as much as I did, was that he was a character that was like so ingrained in being like, oh, we're gonna find the next Earth, we're gonna do this for humanity. It was just like I think I was just a sucker. Like I was a sucker for the like old school science fiction type of like, oh, we're gonna find the next Earth, we're gonna do this, humanity's going to go great, and I know that you're gonna be the one to do it. It was like something about that mentality I really remember just like falling head over heels for. It's the whole unwavering faith thing that I really, really was just a sucker for.
Now, it can be argued that Liam puts Ryder up on a pedestal. Do you think that affects the relationship?
I think it can. I also think it's the way that you like answer his like dialogue options, obviously. It's the whole thing where that's a really like either end type of ideal, because it's like, oh, it's either like a real, some people find it a really good thing, and someone's like, oh, he's just falling in love with you because he's like the savior, because you're like the savior of humanity and all that stuff. But like, I think it's all dependent on how you look at it and how you play it and how you like picture Ryder in your head. Because it's like, while I can see that, I personally didn't see that during my playthroughs of it, because I kind of pictured a Ryder as someone who is just like, please do not do that. Like, I will fall in love with you no matter what. But like, I'm not like a pedestal type of person. But I can definitely see like where that comes from, and how his dialogue and the way that he acts can be a way to see that.
I'm curious. Do you think that they are your type in real life?
Yes.
I love
if you met Liam tomorrow.
I love that deep, heavy sigh, mostly because I also know Sarah really well, and I know Sarah's type really well. And so, like, that deep, heavy sigh, and then, yes.
Well, like, okay. You know my type, and my type can vary very intensely.
It's very true.
But I think Liam kind of fits my more, like, actual physical person type than, like, fictional character type, and that's why I, like, love him so much. Is because, like, I am one of those people that, like, not really craves attention, but craves the whole, like, unwavering faith in myself. Like, oh, knowing someone has unwavering faith in me, that feels really good, and it makes me feel really good. And, like, having a character who is into film, who is into that, like, lifestyle as he is, it just, like, I think that was why I was such a sucker, was the whole idea of, like, oh my god, this is a man that I would 100% flirt with in real life, and I know I wouldn't get anything back in response, but he's giving me stuff back here, so I'm gonna live that fantasy, and I'm gonna live that, he's just 100% my type in real life. Not like my fictional character type, that's a whole different story that we don't have time for, but like my like real life type. Yeah, I think you really hit it on the head. That is a very good question, Matt. But you also know me. You know me, so that makes total sense.
Liam is a character who really does know what he wants, and he also wastes absolutely no time in asking for it, which is displayed in the very final moments of the game where he hits you with the marriage proposal.
Oh, I loved that.
The marriage proposal was good.
It was so damn cute, and I think it's a highlight of the like entire like Mass Effect romance thing for me, because no other characters do that. And yeah, I know what happens to Shepard and everything. I understand that, but like it's just like a sign of hope at the end of Andromeda, where it's like, oh, we're actually going to do this. We're actually going to find humanity a new place. And hey, while we're doing that, do you want to marry me? It's like it's such a great sign of hope along with everything else. And just the way that Ryder can answer, which is like, yes. And Liam's response is just, I didn't think I'd get this far. Like, it's just like, it is like, I love that. I'm such a sucker for that type of thing. And I think the way that BioWare wrote that was so well done and just kind of solidified, like, okay, this is one of my favorite, like, romances in the entire, like, Mass Effect series, because it's such a hopeful ending.
It is,
and I love that. I'm just in a series that was always kind of on the darker end of science fiction, having such a hopeful ending and being like, humanity's coming back, we're gonna get married, maybe we're gonna help rebuild it. It just like, it felt so good. Like, I think after dealing with the end of Mass Effect 3 and everything that happened in that trilogy, having a single wonderful character just go like, will you marry me, was just like, oh my god, yes. Like I'm done with all this like with all this darkness and all this depression. I just want to have a good, happy ending. And I think that was such a great ending to that.
I think also it adds to our thesis that Mass Effect Andromeda is more Star Trek, while original trilogy is more Star Wars. Star Trek had so many relationships building up, so many marriages, families being formed. Like, it wasn't a Star Trek show unless there was a couple that you just rooted for the entire time to get married and have a bunch of babies. Like,
it's true.
It happened on Voyager. It can happen anywhere.
That's true.
No, and yeah, I think that's why Andromeda stood out so much to me. After the original trilogy was just really dark, and while I loved that, having a game that has comedy, that has a light at the end of that tunnel in whatever form that you get it from in the game itself, just felt really, really good, and it felt fun. And I think Liam was a huge part of that for me. Because yeah, the ending by itself, it's still really good. But when you just have that character, it's like, hey, we've been through so much. You wanna marry me? It's like, yes, I do. After this great adventure that we all had, after we had found a place to live, after, no one knows really what's going on with all the Reapers and stuff. It was just a breath of fresh air, and it felt really, really just nice. It felt really fun.
All right. Did you have any final thoughts or anything you wanted to add?
I mean, if anyone gets anything out of this, I really hope people give like the human romance options a bit more of a try. Like, I get the aliens are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I love Garrus as much as the next person, but I definitely think that giving the humans a bit more of a try, and who knows, you might find like one that you really, really love, and like one that kind of just steals your heart the way that Liam did with me.
Hi, my name is John. I am a TikTok personality, apparently. You can find me at The History Wizard. I'm also a historian and an author, and I'm here to talk about PB.
Hell yeah. I feel like that's what PB would say. Hell yeah.
Absolutely. That feels on brand.
So, John, tell us a little bit about why PB. Why is PB your favorite romance?
So in a lot of ways, PB's just fun. Like, obviously, all of the romances have their very fun, quirky, ridiculous stuff, but at the end of the day, PB is just the most fun. Every single bit of every interaction that you have with PB is some sort of adventure. It's some sort of just constant search for discovery. She's a weird, nerdy archaeologist in space. I'm a sucker for it.
So what is it about PB that makes you passionate?
One, I love a good flirt. And of all of the characters, PB is, as Matt knows very well, and of all of the characters, PB just has the most of that energy that's just very fun to play with and interact with and bounce off of. Her whole thing about just wanting to find and experience something new that no one has ever experienced before is a fool's errand, if a nice dream. And I really enjoy that, because obviously, like, we're in a whole new galaxy, so this is something that no one from the Milky Way galaxy has ever experienced before, but there's also all these other people over here and they've done that stuff already. So like it's an impossible task, and I am very fond of impossible tasks.
Was there a moment with PB where you're like, aha, she's the one, this is the person?
I mean, honestly, it really happens like very quickly with the interactions with PB. I think it's just those first two impulse triggers that you do when PB is just straddling you to get you to not fuck with the remnant tech. And then when you jump down the gravity well, those were just very fun moments. And the first time I played through Mass Effect Andromeda, when I played through it very, very slowly, once a month at Frankie's old Brooklyn apartment, I went through those moments. It was like, yes, I'm sold. I don't care who else is here. It's this one.
But were you torn between her and anyone else?
I mean, to a certain extent, yes, because there are no bad romances in Mass Effect Andromeda. They did a really good job of making all of the characters good and wholesome and likable and compelling in a lot of ways, except for Reyes. I don't really, vibe with the assassin kind of like you agreed to sort of like an honor duel, and then you're like, but actually though, I'm not gonna do that at all, even a little bit. And I can't, because, well, because I am at my core a paladin in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and I just can't vibe with the lying. But like Vetra's great, Gil and Suvi and everyone is just, they're wonderful, wonderful characters. I was never torn enough to be like, maybe I should abandon this halfway through and romance someone else. But PB is my most consistent romance across various playthroughs of Mass Effect Andromeda.
Talk a little bit about the loyalty mission and like how it resolves and like the final stuff. I mean, there's a charm to that moment where PB's like, fine, I'm 100% in now. I'm going to make this broad gesture. And everyone's like, nah, peace. I'm not into it.
Yeah, like we already knew PB. You're the last one to find out. God, I haven't played Andromeda at least since my Xbox went across the pond.
Whose Xbox?
50% of everything that you own is also mine, so 50% of that Xbox is still mine. But if I remember correctly,
you can have the memories.
So if I'm remembering it correctly, you get jettisoned out in an escape pod looking for some kind of Remtech thing, and PB's ex-girlfriend is also there. You go through this whole sort of vault thing, and then at the end you have to make the choice: the remnant tech thing that you went there to get in the first place, or PB's ex. One of them is going to fall into the lava, and you sort of have this, last second, very quick decision to make. Are you going to save the technology or do the thing that PB has asked you to do and, save Kalinda?
Kalinda.
Yeah.
Kalinda,
yes.
And I always save the person.
You're a paladin. We established this, yeah.
Yes. Well, but also, yes, but it's not just because, of who I am as a person. It's also because one of the huge things about PB's character and her character arc throughout this entire thing has been the impact that, Kalinda has had on her and her ability to trust people and her ability to like want to stay anywhere for longer, than it takes to pack your overnight bag. And the fact that this is PB asking to save this person who caused her so much harm, that's how can you say no to this character growth? Also, I don't know what that technology was. I still don't understand it. I don't even remember if they explain it in the game. So like, I don't fucking know how that's going to help me. I don't care.
Is PB your type in real life?
Is my type the traumatized nerd who loves going on adventures and discovering new things? This feels like a trap. Yes. We can put aside the traumatized part, although really, who isn't at this point in the year of our Lord 2022? But I love anyone who's up for a good adventure. I love people who are passionate about, discovery and learning new things and, just being completely and authentically themselves. Also, my spouse cosplayed as PB for New York Comic Con once, and it was real nice.
It's amazing.
I left that jacket behind. You can have that jacket, John.
Yeah, it'd fit on one arm for him, if even.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not sure. Actually, it should fit because I wore your Mass Effect hoodie that same weekend, and that fit fine. So the jacket should fit.
That's true.
And I do look good in purple.
You do.
Hey, there you go.
Few people don't.
Gotta get your own PB cosplay going.
Gender swap PB. I'm here for it. I'm into it. Bearded gender swapped PB.
I need to.
Can Asaris grow beards? Because I know they're technically non-gendered. Can they grow beards? Do they have beards?
In any Asari that we've ever seen across any of the games, they all more or less have that same basic feminine face shape. The only thing that changes are the face markings and the colors. I guess you could have face markings that sort of resemble 5 o'clock shadow. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
PB would for sure put on a fake beard, though.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Just to like stroke the beard and look serious. PB would do that.
John, before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts about PB? Anything else you want to share about this romance or this character?
We mentioned it briefly earlier, but I just think that moment where PB decides to make this big grand speech about how she's like 100% in, and everyone just sort of like, yeah, no, duh, we already knew this, and just walks away of this big dramatic moment that she's trying to make is just one of the funniest and I think realest and most human moments in these games, because that's exactly how that scene would play out in real life, without any kind of artifice behind it. That is just how that plays out in real life, and it's great.
Now, Matt, it's important for us to ask, did you romance PB?
I did not.
Yeah, I'm real shocked.
Yeah, I did. PB is one of the few characters that I could have romanced that I kind of already during the season said I probably wouldn't, that I valued them as a friend, but they weren't the type that I was going to go after. But by the end of this episode, it will be revealed who I did go after. So stay tuned.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, my money's on Jal.
I guess we'll see. I know
That's what
you
the
listen
good
to the
money's
show.
on.
Yeah, I'm not spoiling it for you, John, because I know you actually listen to the show.
It's one of my favorite podcasts.
Hi, I'm Ren. I'm a podcaster and a freelance guide writer for IGN, Eurogamer, and soon, hopefully, DualShockers. And this is the Jal Romance, where I talk about Jal.
Top 10 conversation topics in the Mass Effect fandom.
That's right.
Jal. And his amazing voice. He is amazing.
It's like they took a little bit of Garrus and they took a little bit of Thane, and then they like put it in a pot, and they're like, let's just shake this up and see what happens if we put these two together, and then we get Jal.
I feel like there's a sprinkling of Caden in there.
There's definitely a sprinkling of Caden in there. Yeah, which is why he's my favorite romance in Andromeda, because he takes all my favorite romances in Mass Effect and just kind of puts it all together. And they're like, but let's make him just a tiny bit more awkward. And that's perfect.
Yep.
We're just going to tweak the awkward a little bit. We're going to turn it to like an 11 on the awkward, and it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, he got my attention pretty quick too. He's definitely a well-written character. Do you remember like the first moment that you were like, he's the one, that's the guy?
Yeah, it was when you first go to their planet and he's just standing there all stoic like, and I'm like, perfect. That's what I want. That's how I want to meet my aliens. I want them to just stand there looking at me menacingly and wondering why I'm there, because that's perfect for me. And I'm like, I'm going to break him. He's going to love me at the end of this. He's all tough looking now, but I'm going to soften him up for sure.
And it's true.
Yeah.
He becomes very, very soft.
Very soft. And then he's like, you want to meet my family? And I'm like, yes, I do. Take me to your family and see. I want to meet you.
I love all the emails you get from his family.
Yeah.
Do you like pie? I hear that's a human thing.
They're so sweet. And I feel like that's really the first time you ever meet somebody's family that's actually like normalish and like pretty stable.
And not trying to murder them?
They're not like Jacob's dad, who's just like, I'm going to start a cult on this island and do weird stuff. No, they're like, no, we love you. Hey, come on in. Meet all the kids. You want pie? I made some human pie. And it's just so nice and welcoming and different to kind of experience that, which is awesome.
Now, were you torn between Jal and anyone else? Or was it Jal all the way? Jal the way.
It was Jal the way, actually. Until kind of the end. What is that other guy's name? I'm totally blank.
Reyes?
Yes, him.
Yeah.
He kind of came in and
We get it.
He was like, I'm like, oh, you're a threat. I can't. What are you doing? You're a threat. Jal better not find out about you, because it's gonna get ugly. But that was, yeah, it was pretty much Jal. Yeah, with a little sprinkling of Reyes, and I'm like, I gotta go.
So now I have to ask,
Reyes.
is Jal your type in real life? Do you find yourself attracted to people like Jal in real life, or is he kind of playing to something that you don't seek in your actual physical world?
Yeah, definitely a little column A, column B. I find him very endearing. He has this really interesting personality that I really like in real life and in my games. As I said, it's a sprinkling of the Garrus and the Thane and the Caden, right? You take all the good parts of them and you get Jal, but mainly it is kind of a game thing. Most of the romances I seek in my games kind of follow that pattern of, duty bound, family oriented kind of guys who are like, they're tough, but they've got that soft spot for you. And it's just like, aw, I broke through that tough guy wall. Aw.
I mean, you literally described all of the characters you just mentioned, as well as Jal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
that
definitely a
that checks
theme.
out.
Definitely a theme. BioWare knows what they're doing. They started.
It's not an accident.
No, they started with Karth in Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah.
Oh, Karth. Man, when I played that for the first time recently on Switch, and I was so mad when I found out as a male character you couldn't romance Karth. I was like, that's bunk.
Yeah.
That's baloney. Get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Karth absolutely would be perfect for both. For everybody. Karth is for everyone. Gosh darn it.
Exactly.
But yeah, it started with Karth because he was the same way. He was very duty bound and he was like, we got to do this mission, and then you broke through and it was amazing. It's the same thing with like Cullen in Dragon Age. They know what they're doing. Well done. Well done, BioWare.
So how did you feel about the date, for lack of a better term?
It was my favorite. It was so sweet. It was just like, oh yeah, let's just go on this date and look at the stars and do some.
It was sweet and spicy.
Yeah. And so that was kind of the difference between the romances you see in Mass Effect, right? It was just a little bit more spice to it, especially when you finally get with him and I'm like, ooh, this is way spicy.
Yeah.
And I was like looking around.
The spice takes me by surprise.
I'm like looking around, making sure no one's watching me play this part because I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to explain this. I don't want to have to explain what's happening here.
Yeah, that's like when I was playing the we've talked about this before on the pod, but the Liam Jal moment.
Yeah.
And Jal just walks out full back, and I'm just like, oh, is it warm in here? What's happening?
Yeah, I'm like, this is okay. It's slightly different. All right, let's go. They're like, yeah, we didn't show you enough. They're like, BioWare's like, we're sorry, we didn't show you any like Caden. We didn't show you any Garrus butt or Thane butt, but we're just gonna give you Jal. Here you go. Enjoy.
It is a reward, but they are still cowards.
Yeah. That's true.
They're slightly braver, but they're still cowards, in my opinion, because Vetra got nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Vetra deserved better.
Testing the waters, I guess. They're like, let's see how people respond to this.
Positively.
Yeah. So,
Overwhelming positivity.
More butts in BioWare games. That's what I always say.
More butts, more butts.
That's going to be the tagline for Mass Effect 5. More butts.
Well, Matt, important question. Did you romance Jal?
I did not.
Oh, sick burn for all of you out there who guessed Jal for Matt's Andromeda journey. I wonder who he could have romanced.
Yeah, we're running out of options at this point. I it was close. He was in the running. Those who've been listening the whole time know that it's mostly been Vetra Jal or Korra, and considering some other options too, like Avila Kajar. It just Jal was like neck and neck for the lead with the person I ended up choosing. So, which there's still some options left. He's a great character. He's well written. I will probably romance him on a future playthrough, but I did not choose him this time.
All right. Ren, do you have any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. If you're on the fence about romancing Jal, just do it. Do yourself a favor. It's a beautiful relationship, especially after you get together and then you talk to him on the ship. And what's the tagline he always says?
Stay clear, darling.
Yeah. So he'll say, but he says it so aggressively, and it's just like, because he's like, stay clear and true or something like that, and it scares me. And then he'll add my darling at the end once in a while, but it's just like, okay, I'll stay clear and true. All right. All right. But it is one of the best romances I feel in Mass Effect. Kind of a wholesome guy who's pretty level-headed. He loves his family. He takes really good care of you, clearly. But it's a really fun romance to see. And the ending, if you romance him, is kind of sweet too. So he's just, as I said, all the good parts of some of my favorite romances in BioWare games, all wrapped up in a handsome purple-blue alien guy. So it's perfect.
Just want to give him a big hug.
Just hugs all the time with him. I bet he's a great hugger.
Hi, I'm Josh Kostler, and I am going to be talking about Korra, the super badass, biotic, back-flipping, like, quarterback meets Captain America with a really sick haircut. Space Viking with a gun and psychic powers.
That is not how I would describe Korra at all.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, man.
You forgot to mention that she's a weeb.
She is a weeb
She
for the
is a
Asari.
weeb. She does have like the Legolas vibe, doesn't she? And I'm really into this culture, and I know the language, and I know the magic system. Like it's her, and it's Legolas, and yeah, she's like that mutant from the X-Men who's really into the Inhumans, and he just wants the other magic powers. It's a problem, right? And speaking of the X-Men problem, she's like the perfect example of the narrative X-Men problem. Superpowers are a great allegory for oppression until they're really not. And I love her anyway. She is so delightfully nerdy about superpowers. It's very funny. It's just so silly. And when we meet her right away, it's this person's clearly no nonsense. Maybe she doesn't like you. The game's camera is going to make sure you know that she's hot, though.
Common Mass Effect problem. We're going to put the camera in awkward positions to show off female assets, but not anyone else's. Where are those crotch shots is what I'm asking for, the men's crotch shots. We're missing those in the Mass Effect.
I would like to interrupt you and remind you that we got Liam shirtless for most of the game.
That's true. Yeah.
And we also got both Liam and Jal.
Yeah, that's true.
So there was some female gaze in this.
There was. That's true. Josh, I'm curious though. Why Korra? What drew you to her?
I tend to play role-playing games, even when I'm doing deep dives and like really trying to get into a character, pretty similarly to how I live my regular life. Like I make decisions that make sense to me, and all of my partners are professional sword fighters. I have a problem. It's the way it is. A hyper competent human with a martial bent who knows a lot of obscure things about a culture. Like if Mass Effect aside, if you gave me those three attributes and said, go talk to them at a bar, I would do it. I would do it immediately. I would teleport to that bar. And yeah, she's delightfully nerdy and no nonsense in a way that does not feel off-putting, right? She's very clear about this is a job and here are the codes but she'll also, make a joke that would she's very flirty, right? She'll cross the line without distancing herself from her professionalism.
That's true. That's very true. What moment made you realize that they were the one, that this was right romance for you?
There was a really fun moment pretty early on. I think it's after, it might be right after you get made Pathfinder, where she's frustrated and she's, upset that Ryder kind of abandoned her in this way. And she's talking about her complicated mentor relationships and her biotics flare up, and she slams something down and she recognizes that that was inappropriate levels of force, but it wasn't inappropriate levels of frustration. And there's this really cool nuance that she expresses. I was wrong to throw superpowers around. I am not wrong to be angry. And my little goblin brain just went, nuance? Superpowers? Yes. It's fun when somebody is that strong and competent and adept and focused on a skill set and still has that nuanced self-awareness to go, yeah, I fucked up here, but I'm still pissed. Rightfully so.
Almost sensing a pattern in the humans that you've pursued in your own personal life with that statement, huh?
Oh, yes. Both of my partners are stage combatants. They are working artists and performers. And there is a certain level of, something happens in a stage fight, something happens in whatever, at work, in our shared spaces. This was inappropriate, or this didn't work out, or whatever. But I'm still very sure of these things. And that the combination of self-awareness and competence is deeply attractive. And the fact that, she also has this incredible knowledge of another culture and is pushing for equality and acceptance within a, if fictional, minority group. You got social justice, you got hyper-intelligence, you got superpowers, you got self-awareness. That's a pretty good combination.
For sure. We should probably talk specifically about the romance moment, the first time you get to really share a personal moment with Cora, which is this. She wants to show you something. She wants to bring you to Eos and show you something.
And it is really delightful. She takes you to a rose garden that she's planted. And it's a callback to something that happens earlier in the game, which is roses in Andromeda, how silly. And it's the garden is this beautiful metaphor for investing in something and planting a seed, and it alludes to the relationship she wants with our Pathfinder. But what's really amazing to me is even in the way she talks about that relationship and starting something and developing something is very self-aware, right? She's talking about investing in this thing rather than just some sort of flash in a pan romance. It's really beautiful and very heartfelt, and honestly, phenomenal storytelling. What consistent character design we got out of BioWare this time.
I completely agree. And also, I just want to say that from a platonic friendship standpoint, this scene still really holds up. And she talks about how she wants to start something with a friend. And that character growth, that development still holds up in just your platonic relationship as much as in the romantic version.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the cool things about Cora is that there are other characters in Mass Effect Andromeda and other Mass Effect games, or whether or not you romance them really changes how they treat you and whether or not they respect you in a case or two. But Cora, you get the feeling that eventually at the end of the story, regardless of romance or no romance, Ryder means a lot to her. And if something comes of that, awesome. And if not, that's okay. And that's also cycling back to that really cool emotional pragmatism, which is such an interesting thing to see in a character that would be very easily to make two-dimensional as the tomboy with a gun.
Which a lot of people think she is.
Those people are incorrect.
People are incorrect. She's just not like that.
I mean, they're the same people who think Kaden is boring, right? Kaden seems to be pretty milquetoasted on the surface, but if you dig, there's more to that character, and Cora was the same way. which was, which I've said in several episodes that we've done. We've asked some other folks. I'm curious, were you torn between anyone else and Korra? Or was Korra the clear choice from the beginning?
I've played the game through. I've done it every option, and Korra is always the one where if I have another plan in my head, I always end up accidentally going, oh shit, did I romance Korra by accident again? What did I? So no, it's if I need to romance someone else so I can watch a cutscene, or for my little completionist goblin brain, sometimes I will accidentally end up flirting with Korra too much. It happens.
Amazing.
I know what's wrong with me.
Well, Josh, do you have any other thoughts about Korra or the Korra relationship, the Korra romance, like any summarizing feelings about this experience?
I think it would have been very easy to make this character be like a one-dimensional thing, like a tomboy with a gun. There's some aggressive flirting and that's all you got. But the emotional pragmatism and the honesty it's a fascinating story. And what I love so much about the Korra romance is that fascinating story. And that's really how I feel about it.
It's amazing. I also will share now. Frankie has asked at the end of these little segments that we are putting together for our romance roundtable if I have, because there were some clear front runners for my romance, and Frankie has asked, but I'm not even going to let Frankie ask here. I'm going to admit right here that yes, Korra was my romance. I chose Korra.
I appreciate that you are correct. I like that you're right. Thank you for joining me on the train of love with gender-swapped space Aragorn.
And I did take the reaction trigger to kiss her, because who wouldn't? Come on.
Yeah, even me, who can't read a room for shite, knows that's what you do.
And lastly, we are going to discuss two very undervalued romance options, Avela Kajar and Carrie Tavessa.
Yep. Avela was in the running for a while for me, but I started to get a whiff of the BioWare-ness of it. And what I mean by that is BioWare often presents options as small possibilities that sometimes are fun to pursue, but are often kind of left short. It's some of the complaints we've had with some of the human companions in the past for the original trilogy. And I got a whiff of that with these characters, that you could pursue them, but because they're not squad mates, it's gonna end up landing a little different. Not squad mates or people that you spend an extended amount of time with, at least.
Right. It's like Kelly.
Yes, exactly.
It's a romance, but it doesn't count as a romance.
Yeah, totally. And so, let's start with Carrie, I guess. A character who I actually really like. It's funny being friends with more journalists now. It's fun to see her pattern through the story of being a journalist. And then so the final thing you can get with her is if you continue to flirt and then pursue the relationship towards the end, you can go to a bar and kind of get to know her, which is a cool, fun moment. And I'm sure, and can be just as fun, just as friends. And a nice, I think, coda to the quest chain. I don't think it's a good coda to the relationship, though.
Yeah, I agree. The relationship just falls so flat. And there's no real wrap up to it, whereas everybody else gets these intimate moments right before the fight. They get their quippy little saying or their quippy little moment after everything is said and done. And there's this air of possibility with them, whereas with Carrie, you don't really get that.
Yeah, not at all. Even we'll get to Avela, there is a little bit of possibility more than this. This feels kind of finite, and I mean that's okay. They can't do everything with everyone, but I don't know. I would love in future BioWare games for them to explore a little more of the everyday people relationships, especially since that was so important to Andromeda, right? We're an average Joe or Jane or the non-binary equivalent, and we're just out there kind of screwing shit up and trying to get things right. And this is a very everyman story, everyman non-gendered. And so for this to kind of with someone who also just kind of has a regular job doing some really cool, important stuff, the fact that it doesn't go anywhere is a little bit of a bummer.
I just want you to know that when you were trying to come up with a non-binary everyday Joe or Jane, my brain went to everyday pal, but wanted to put a J there. So everyday Jal. So Jal is the gender neutral now.
Right. I mean, also keep in mind, I am a person, if you followed me on Twitter at all lately during the hiatus, I adopted a puppy.
Names don't have gender.
Names don't have gender, but also I'm a parent now of a young puppy who I adore. And so, like, for own clarity in the household, Sarah and I will refer to each other as mom and dad, but we'll say mom non-gendered or dad non-gendered, since, as we've discussed before, you can be a dad without being male. And so this is the same. Like, it was, Joe or Jane non-gendered. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, I really like Carrie's character. I keep wanting to say Kelly now because we brought up Kelly. I like Carrie's character. And I think, again, as a story, it's fun. Just as a relationship, it falls short.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Nothing really to add. She's fun. She's funny. She's smart. She's interesting. She's passionate. I would have liked to see more from her. I would have liked to really explore what her life is like on the station. Like, who are her friends? What is it like for her to date the Pathfinder? Like, all this stuff. But we don't get any of that. Just like with Avela, we don't get any of that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Avela, let's shift gears to Avela Kajar, who, as I said very early on in our season, that, like, I was like, ooh, I like this person. They flirt in my way. They're really nerdy. But as you go, and so Avela, for those who have forgotten, you go through a series of missions, sort of like with Carrie, this time, though, for finding artifacts. They're an archaeologist, and, like, it's fun banter. Like, I do love the writing, again, in this game, and, like, the moment-to-moment writing is much better, I would even say, than parts of the trilogy. Especially on, like I said, the more average citizen level. But Avela also, you pursue this quest line, you find all these artifacts, and then it completes with you kind of having a chat with Avela on one of the balconies of her home area. And it's fantasizing and talking about what could be. She kisses you suddenly and then apologizes. You ask why she's holding back. And it amounts to a conversation where she's like, I can't devote to you. I need to devote to this archaeology and the discovery of my people, but maybe when this all is said and done, we can get together. And it's like that line makes it feel more like there is a future than Carrie, but that's really it. Ultimately, mechanically, though, it's the same.
Once you have that conversation, it's basically done, and you can go off and romance someone else.
Which, like, I mean, I like the freedom that, like, there isn't a binary to the dating here, but if you want that to be your one and only, it does feel more incomplete than it does feel more like Kelly from to in a similar way. And so it's a bummer, especially since I really like Avela as a character, and you keep going back to her in a way that you don't other side quest characters. And she's just really well voice acted, and, like, there's something about her passion for archaeology that's really contagious. And it's just kind of a disappointment that another interesting alien non-human character is just kind of, because it's not like they can't do this with non-player characters, right? Gil gets a pretty expansive romance, Suvi does as well, more or less, and, like, it's just these two, even Reyes, as we talked about, again, all of those being imperfect when they're not party members, and they all succeed on a variety of levels. But I feel like these two specifically, and Avela most importantly to me, since I did like her as a character, fails the hardest.
Yeah, it's just disappointing and sad because when you pursue a romance, you really want there to be depth there. You want there to be some kind of resolution and hope for the future. And while Avela sort of gives you hope for the future by implying if you're ever not the Pathfinder and she's ever not the head of this museum, then maybe something can happen there. But how likely is that, where we live a life where we're not the Pathfinder?
Yeah, and especially since on a meta level, we know that the planned DLC for the Quarian arc never got made, and, like, the game is notoriously incomplete, especially supposedly in its ending, which I'm only guessing on, but based on what I heard, it's not a complete finished product in the way that even the other parts of the trilogy were, right? And so this is just kind of insult to injury as far as incomplete stories go. And it's a bummer, especially since the majority of what's here, and so far as we've played, I really like.
Yeah, just add Avela and Carrie to the list of characters that got the raw deal.
Yep, which we have a long list of and will continue to have as the show continues. So anyway, this is the tail to our incredible Romance Roundtable. It was something a little different. Frankie was the mastermind behind all of this, and I'm super grateful that they made this happen. It's been super fun to talk about all these different relationships, and this could be something we do for future seasons as well. It seemed to work really well, since not all the games that we would like to cover in the future of the show have clear and present, here's the mission for this character, like we had in the past.
I just posed when you said that I was the mastermind, like anyone could see me.
Look, it made you feel better, and that's all that matters.
Hey, Matt, you know how every episode we make someone pick a character off of a list and we ask them a question?
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to pick a character off of the list?
Sure, why not? Oh, this is the part where I pick a character off the list.
Yeah, this is the part where you pick a character off the list.
All right, so if I have to pick someone, let's do Sarah. I don't know that we've specifically done Sarah Ryder.
I don't think we've done either Sarah or Scott.
Yep, and so I will pick Sarah.
All right. What was your favorite subject in school?
None. I hated school. That's oversimplifying. Actually, there was a broadcasting course that I took in college that I really liked. It was like the history of radio broadcasting, and our final project was to pick a broadcaster we loved. And I brought the Who's On First, like we had to bring like old-timey radio, and I brought the Who's On First sketch from Abbott and Costello, and like literally had the entire classroom rolling, laughing so hard, which was kind of fun to hear it still be such a hit with like a bunch of teenagers, even though I grew up loving all that old stuff. And so, yeah, that course was one of my favorites. I liked anything music related or branching out from it, and more broadly, even art classes. I didn't love any of like the core subjects. I was not great at them. And so, especially in the format that school took.
That's valid. I think my favorite course that I ever took was an abnormal photography class, where I got to learn how to make my own pinhole cameras. I got to learn different types of photography that were not your standard point and click. I got to learn how to make cyanotypes and making my own negatives. Like, it was really interesting and really cool. I got to produce a book at the end that was a fairy tale that I told through my own photographs.
That's really cool. That's really neat. I love that.
I love photography. I just never got as deep into it as I did writing.
Look, we are allowed to have some things we like that we don't try and turn into a thing. Not everything is content.
It's true.
I'm saying that more for me than for you, but it all applies. Well, we are at the end of our giant romance roundtable, and this is awesome. This worked out really well, and so we're now officially back from hiatus. Our next episode will be returning to the Nexus to like do literally everything, like all of the nonsense, and progress the story. And so you can just go back to the Nexus if you've been playing along and do your cleanup, and we will do the same. I'm sure it won't all completely overlap because I've been a little zigzaggy, but we'll get the broad of it, the most of it done in this, and it'll be our last trip to the Nexus before we really head gung-ho into the future and ending of this very game.
Well, we have a little bit before the end. There's a little back and forth, so yeah, you might have to revisit the Nexus. Fair enough. Depends on what your romance asks of you.
Fair enough. Also, I would like to take a moment to just promote all of our guests that we've had on the roundtable. Starting with Adam, who is on a D&D podcast called Horizons Point, allegedly a Dungeons & Dragons podcast. You can find that podcast at Allegedly D&D Pod. You can also check out Mike Kimball, who was our second speaker for the roundtable. He has an itch.io page for his TTRPG beginnings, and you can find that at kerfligel21.itch.io. Next up, of course, the incredible and wonderful Kenneth Shepard, who is one of the hosts of Normandy FM, which you can find at Normandy FM Show on Twitter and wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find Ken at Shepard CDR on Twitter, at Shepard CDR. Of course, recurring guest, the wonderful and incredible Spectre Alafet. You can find Spectre mostly at Archives of the Dragon, www.twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon for more of that TTRPG goodness. You can also, of course, find Spectre at Spectre Alafet on Twitter. The incredible Sarah, who does incredible movie phone recaps, which are linked in the show notes. You can also, of course, find Sarah on Twitter at Sarah of Mars. the History Wizard himself of TikTok. You can go to TikTok and look up The History Wizard to find him over there and check out all the awesome stuff he is creating there. Ren, one of the hosts of Two Nerdy Birds, which is a podcast that you can find on all podcast platforms. You can also check out her guide writing, which I'm going to link into the show notes. And of course, you can find Ren at Good Game Ren on Twitter. And then last but not least, the incredible Josh Kostler, who you can find False Edge Armory on Instagram. And I'm also going to put a link in the show notes.
Well, if you like what you heard here, you can follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can find this show and all of the other great shows on the network at certainpov.com, each with their own unique nerdy point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website and join in the conversation about this show, other shows, and tons of nerdy pop culture stuff.
And as for personal plugs, I've got nothing. Go read my fanfic over on Archives of Our Own. My username is iHoardLibrarians. Venmo me $5 at Frankie Brad is hella rad, now that I'm living off of a stipend. Email me with commission requests. I don't know. That's it. That's all I got.
As of when this is releasing, I don't have a ton of new stuff. My birthday just passed. It was on October 2nd, so you can go wish me a happy birthday if you haven't yet. My Amazon wish list, I believe, is at djstormageddon.com if you feel froggy and want to buy me something. Otherwise, you can just go to djstormageddon.com to find all of the podcasts I'm working on. This one, other stuff on this network, stuff off the network. I'm doing way too much as usual, so you know where to find me there.
Send Matt presents. Send me presents.
I mean, yes, that too.
We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Caden Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Carter's husband for developing more amazing t-shirt designs that you can find at certainpov.com or on our Teespring page.
Thank you to David Boyle for redesigning our logo like a champ. And finally, thank you to JT Music and Andrea Storm Caden for our new theme music. I'm Frankie.
I'm Adam.
I'm Mike Kimball.
I'm Kim Shepard.
I'm Spectre Elefet.
I've been Sarah.
I'm John.
I'm Ren.
I'm Josh.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Good luck, Pathfinders.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun, whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.